Okay, we're recording now and we're just about to go live. All right, welcome everyone. We see people are starting to join us now. Thank you very much for joining us for our April desktop time. This month is of course very significant if you're a financial person because everybody probably knows what happened yesterday, the end of tax season officially, although if they filed for extensions, you'll be dealing with this for another month or two. But we are very grateful that you're able to join us today. And I wanted to start off just introducing our illustrious panel today. We're very grateful to have them with us. Starting with Bob Crook, who will be starting off first. And just to give you a little bit of background about Bob, he's over 30 years of experience in accounting systems. He's also known as QB Bob. I don't know if I'm able to say that, but most people know him as QB Bob, certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor since 1999, and is QuickBooks Point of Sale certified since 2003. He's also earned Intuit's advanced certification as a Sleeter certified consultant. His company, Small Business Solutions, serves as North Alabama's premier QuickBooks consulting firm, where Bob and his team are certified experts in QuickBooks and QuickBooks Point of Sale products. He's based out of Huntsville, Alabama, and they actually support people all over Northern Alabama, South Central Tennessee regions, offering on-site setup, training, instruction, and ongoing maintenance for small to mid-sized businesses. He also offers remote support services to QuickBooks users all over the United States. Bob also hosts a monthly radio show where he gets the QB Bob on the radio, and a weekly tips and tricks vignette for QuickBooks novices to experts, which he shares his knowledge of QuickBooks software. So welcome, Bob. We also today have Karen Siewert. She looks like the Flash, actually. I was going to ask you earlier if I can call you the Flash. You got the lightning bolt and everything. That's pretty cool. Karen's a member of the Intuit Accountant Trainer Writer Network, Intuit's premier reseller program and certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor program. Karen holds Intuit certifications in QuickBooks Point of Sale, Desktop and Rebel, QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions, QuickBooks Online, and the advanced certification for QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online. Karen has over 19 years of specialized training in the use of QuickBooks and has over 42 years of accounting and bookkeeping experience. Karen's accounting and software industry experience.
Forget it. Don't need to go there.
She's awesome. She's just awesome. Let's just say she's awesome. She provides QuickBooks consulting services throughout the United States, utilizing remote access and locally in Vermont. So welcome, Karen. And then last but not least, we have Karen Magno, not Mango, from Transaction Pro. And if you're not familiar, Transaction Pro Importer, you can be importing your transactions and lists into QuickBooks in just a few easy steps. No matter what type of data you need to import, Transaction Pro Importer makes it quick and easy. No complicated import templates. You define and save your own field mapping based on the import file you provide. Transaction Pro Importer even validates your data pre-import and provides a log file after your file is imported, so there's no guesswork on what data was imported. So Karen will be giving us a demonstration on exactly how that takes place. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Bob, who's going to start off. Everyone, of course, today we're talking about importing data into a QuickBooks file, desktop, or even the QuickBooks Online. We may mention it today. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Bob. He's going to start us off talking about bank and credit card transaction imports. So thank you, Bob, for being here, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the time. And QBox has been a great product for quite a few of our clients, and I've enjoyed using it myself a lot. Today, we're talking about good old QuickBooks downloads of transactions, the way that QuickBooks connects to the banking systems. And I want to give you a little bit of history. A lot of times people don't realize that some of the banking stuff that's been out there since even the early 80s, but it was very cryptic and not very user-friendly. And it really didn't come into full bloom really until the later 90s and into the 2000s. And so, you know, it's been around for a while. It's just not always been used by a lot of people. And in fact, we're really going to talk about it in relation to with QuickBooks. And one of the interesting statistics that I found out a few years ago when I went to a QuickBooks conference was that that they did a survey. Intuit did a survey. Intuit is, of course, as we all know, the makers of the QuickBooks products. And they did a survey about the online banking. And they found that only about 15% of all QuickBooks users actually use it. And I find that to be true in my experience. Every time I go out and visit a new client that I have not worked with before, almost in every single case, they're not using the online version. And if they started to use the online version, it wasn't, it crashed and burned. They didn't understand it. It messed up their checking account. Their CPA got mad at them and said, stop using that. So I'm a huge advocate of getting folks to use it. And if you use it right, it's a huge time saver. It's tremendously adds accuracy to your QuickBooks. Helps with reconciliations, really great reconciliations at the end of the month. I also think it's a fantastic fraud prevention, because as soon as you see something odd going on with your bank, you can immediately address it. You're not waiting for the bank statement later on. The other thing too that I've taught a lot of clients to do is balance monitoring. They're monitoring their balance. They're able to monitor not only the cleared balance at the bank, but also transactions that hadn't gotten to the bank. And last but not least, it also helps you kind of check yourself as you're going along. Instead of waiting for the bank statement at the end of the month, you can actually check for errors during the course of the month. So those are really fantastic reasons for using the online, but a lot of people just don't know how to really get it all connected together and make it work to their benefit. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is the online download of the banking. Now, you'll see Karen. I don't know if Karen can be seen by everybody. I know that looks like you're muted. Oh, there she is. Karen actually, she has taught online courses about having to do the online banking and the downloads and all that kind of stuff at national conferences. Anything that you can add to that, Karen, that I said about introducing the online banking download stuff?
Well, online banking in QuickBooks came in 2005. So it is, what, 12 years old? Did I do my math right? So, and it's great. But, you know, one of the best things I ever found out was I went to help a client, and they were connected in 2005. And I, as a pro advisor, felt like I'd been taught by somebody, and I was supposed to be all these certifications and all that. And I'm like, hell, everybody else is embracing all these technologies, and he was paying his bills directly with KeyBank and there are other credit cards. And it was such a tool that everybody should be using for all the reasons that Bob said. But don't be left behind in the dust. This is something that everybody should be using. But there are some security things and, you know, and the way you use it that should be managed, maintained, and your workflow has to be accurate, because otherwise, as Bob says, you may have a mess in your QuickBooks. So that's that's
what we get paid for, is to clean up the messes and the spaghetti. And I call it the spaghetti. That's my word when I go and visit a new client. And now, Karen, I like Magno. I think that's pretty good. Do you have any comments to say or add to any of what you know about from your angle from doing transaction importing and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we actually use the bank feeds. We have a QuickBooks desktop file, and we use the bank feeds in our business. But we have American Express for our corporate accounts, and they don't have a feed into QuickBooks desktops. We actually use our own product to import our credit card transactions. We use a mixture of both. I always recommend using what's there if it works for you. You know, bank feeds work great for us. We've used them for years.
Well, very good. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. So I was going to go through and talk a little bit about the versions of QuickBooks, because sometimes there's confusion about that. There's the good old QuickBooks Desktop, and there's the Mac version, which, from what I understand, 2016, it is done. So they're trying to move everything over to the other product, which is called QuickBooks Online. And they all work with the bank feeds, and all the banks work. Not all the banks, most of the banks will now connect to the QuickBooks Desktop or to the QuickBooks Online. The thing that is important to understand, though, is there are two fundamental ways that the QuickBooks Desktop hooks up to the online banking. And one of them is called Web Connect, and then the other one is called Direct Connect. What's the difference between the two? Well, the Web Connect, you must log into the bank's website. And every bank is a little bit different, and you got to find the little secret place that sometimes is secret, sometimes they make it more obvious, where you find the little thing that says download or export, and once you find that, then you have to choose which format you want to use. You always want to use the one that says QuickBooks QBO. And that's one thing that Karen and I always kind of have a fun thing about it, because QuickBooks Online used to be QBOL. and then they came along with QuickBooks Online for the accounting package. And of course, they use that as QBO. But the format, back to the banking, when you log in, you got to fish around in your bank's website or your credit card. It's one thing we really didn't mention earlier. Credit cards download very nicely too. And so you want to do all of that. So anyway, the Web Connect, you must go into the website and find that special place that then you download, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about how that happens. Let's talk about the other way that you can connect. A lot of the banks also offer what's called Direct Connect. And instead of having to log in to your bank and then find that special place, with Direct Connect, you actually connect it to the QuickBooks right inside of QuickBooks. You don't have to go to the website. Now, I always, when I get with clients that have never used it before, I always get them to prove to me, hey, show me that you can log into your bank so that we know it's not a QuickBooks issue, that you know how to get into your bank. And then once I get in there, we fish around, we figure out whether they offer Direct Connect, and there's different ways to do that. But anyway, the Direct Connect has the beautiful benefit that you don't have to log into the website. You just go to your bank feeds inside of QuickBooks Desktop. You say send receive, and it reaches out to the bank for you and pulls in the transactions from the last time that you did the download and adds those transactions to your QuickBooks. Now, let's keep moving forward, because we want to talk about what happens when you actually do the download. And wait a minute, let's back up for one more second though. Let me look at my outline here, make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, in the older versions, it used to be called QuickBooks Downloading or QuickBooks Online, and now they switched it. When did they do that, Karen? Back 5 or 6 years ago, they changed it to Bank Feeds. But it's all the same thing.
2012 or so.
Something like that. They changed it to Bank Feeds. So once you are connected to the QuickBooks, you got to learn how to deal with it. And Karen, in a little while, is going to demonstrate and show you some of the things that you've got. I'm just kind of introducing the whole idea to you. In the QuickBooks Desktop, there are, we've now learned that there's two ways to connect, Web Connect and Direct Connect. But in the desktop itself, there's also two modes that you can use. There's the old traditional, what's called the register mode, and which I actually prefer. And then a few years ago, back, 2009 or 10, something like that, they came out with this express mode. And what I have found is that most people that use the express mode tend to foul it up because it tries to outthink you, and they add transactions they don't need to add. So most of the time when I do it anyway, I go out and teach clients, I go back to still the good old classic mode because it's more transparent and works better. So those are sort of the advantages and disadvantages. Let's talk a little bit more about the express mode. Express mode is really nice because there's renaming conventions that happen. So when you download transactions from a banking institution, something like Staples or Office Depot or whatever you're downloading, a lot of times has extra stuff attached to it, like a store number or other things. And you don't want necessarily all that stuff added to your QuickBooks. So you could do what's called creating aliases. So when you're in express mode, they actually have some better tools for managing the naming conventions of the way that the transaction comes from the bank, and then you can rename it in QuickBooks. In classic mode, you still have that, but the aliases, the tools for managing and editing the aliases are not as good. So again, a lot of the stuff you have to play with, or you can always call one of us and we can help you with it. You gotta use it and keep playing with it to try to make sure that it's working the way that it really needs to work. So those are the two ways that, let's see here, make sure that I got my thing here. Classic mode and express mode, all right? And then we talked about the Web Connect and the Direct Connect and the way that you connect that. And now, so once you're connected, here's where the real fun begins. And this is where you have to make sure that you understand and you have a process. When the transactions come from the bank or from the credit card company, some people think it's just adding it to their QuickBooks and they're all scared. Well, it's really not. What happens is those transactions come down and you have to go through an approval process. And what happens is it comes into the screen. On the classic mode, you'll have a split screen where the bottom screen will show the transactions that have been downloaded. The top screen will show the transactions that are already in your QuickBooks. And your whole process is to make sure that you're matching what it is that's clearing at the bank. And so it's an approval process that says, hey, I've got this one matched. And it puts a little lightning bolt. That's why Karen has a lightning bolt on her forehead. And that means that you're good with that transaction, although there's lots of pitfalls for that too, because sometimes you can put it on the wrong transaction. That's more detail that we're getting into today. But the most important thing is that you're trying to make sure that what's in your QuickBooks is matching at the bank.
Hey,
So,
Bob,
yes.
interrupt for a second. I'm looking at
Absolutely.
this chat.
Anytime.
I know. I'm looking at this chat, and I love what the comment is, although Peter Cullen is on it. But here is from Michelle Riff. She says, bank feeds downloads is not meant to be how users do their bookkeeping. It's a huge misconception, and Intuit needs to stop marketing it. And I agree. What we need to do is be able to show people the right way of connecting and matching data, which you've already entered into your system, which has been approved, et cetera, and so on. So I just wanted to throw that in because
no, that's
big on that. And
that's an excellent point. Really is. You're not doing bookkeeping. You're really making sure you're really doing what I call an interim bank reconciliation.
That's right.
Because once a month you do the real bank reconciliation to check everything that's on the bank statement. But what this does is allows you to check it as you go along. And what the beauty of it is if you do it right, when you get to the end of the month, literally about 3 or 4 clicks of a mouse button, and you're done with your reconciliation. You don't have to sit there and tick and check the old traditional way. And so it's just, you're right on the chat. I mean, it's not for bookkeeping. If you do it the right way, it tremendously enhances and makes the bookkeeping much more accurate. And for all the reasons I said about earlier, fraud prevention and accuracy and all that kind of stuff.
But the other part is that Bob and I deal with a lot of people that they use items, they use purchase orders, they are, when you're dealing with a inventory-based client and job costing and construction, they use class accounting, they use items, and they use customers. And so if the workflow doesn't start in the system, then you can't do that really seamlessly in the express mode. You can do it within the register mode, which is what I'm going to show you, but what needs to happen is matching the transactions that have been approved is what this is supposed to be able to do. It's not just getting data in, although you can get the data in, it's also catching errors. But it's really important to understand that a blessed transaction came from QuickBooks and that the bank feed is matching it.
Correct.
That's the way.
Yeah, and that's good. Now, what I teach, though, my clients a lot of times is I try to make sure that even if it's a mystery transaction, the first priority is to keep their checkbook and their credit cards in balance with what's at the bank. So if they get some sort of an odd transaction they don't recognize, I still tell them, say, hey, add it and put it to an account down at the very bottom of the chart of accounts, and you call it to research. So that way you can check your balance to make sure on a daily basis that what you have is your cleared balance in QuickBooks matches the cleared balance, posted balance at the bank. And a lot of people don't really, a lot of people don't make sure to go to that next step. And they kind of will use the online banking, but the sweet spot is that every day after you finish downloading your transactions and you've matched most of them and added 1 or 2 that are mystery ones or need more research, what I always do is I say, okay, now that we're matched, we got to go look at the register. So the secret, my secret, it's not a secret, I like to tell everybody that I work with, is once you've got everything matched and added to the checkbook, then you go to the check register in QuickBooks, and this works with all versions of QuickBooks. You make sure to sort the register by cleared status. Because then it puts all of the reconciled together, all the reconciled transactions, and all the interim reconciled transactions that have the lightning bolt, and it has a running balance along the right-hand side of your register. You look at that right-hand side, and wherever the end of your lightning bolts are, you look over to the right, and whatever that balance is, that's what QuickBooks believes should be your cleared posted balance at the bank. You look at that running balance, you go look at the bank, and they should match. And if they don't, then you go through a series of steps to make sure that they actually really do match. Now, one little caveat to that. Some of the banks work well, some of the banks don't work quite as well. There is a balance that gets sent to QuickBooks. Some of the banks will send the previous night's cleared posted balance. Wonderful. Some of the banks will send today's balance, which isn't the accurate cleared posted balance from last night. So you have to go and look at the website to see, okay, what was my balance last night? But I can promise you, I have lots and lots of clients that if they will look at the register balance sorted by cleared status and look at the end of the lightning bolts and match what's at the bank and make sure those two balances match every day as they go along. When they get to the end of the month and they get their bank statement, what I call the magic day, they can go and do one more download on the day after the bank closes the statement, and in 3 clicks they can reconcile the checking account and have the most accurate bank statement that you would ever have reconciled in a very timely manner. Now, one other thing, I just was interesting, I went to a client this morning that has never used the online banking, and Karen, I'm sure you have seen this many, many times. They think they're reconciled. We start looking, and this one had hundreds of transactions, one $4,000 transaction from 3 years ago. It was still sitting in the register uncleared. So once once you've learned to keep the balance right, you're not finished. The next step is to always make sure that you pay attention to all the transactions that are not cleared. And what I tell my clients all the time, I say, I want a good story as to why every one of these transactions that does not have a check mark or a lightning bolt, why they're still on there. If you can't give me a good story, and then we got to figure out if it's a duplicate, if it's a transaction that needs to be voided or deleted or edited in some way, but that is still affecting the balance in your QuickBooks. So Karen, I'm sure you've run into that kind of stuff. How do you usually handle that?
Well, I say exactly, how do you know that the end of your year is accurate? Because if you've got all these transactions that are hanging out there, then guess what? You've got expenses that potentially overdid your expenses on your profit and loss, or your income is overstated, because if they aren't reconciling their bank accounts at the end of a month or at the end of a year and getting rid of outstanding transactions that are no longer valid or not even valid at all, then their financials are not accurate, period. One and done.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I say all the time is that, to me, and when I go see, like for instance, the client that I went to see this morning, brand new client, I've just started working with them, their CPA sent them to me. And one of the things I started wondering, they have all these transactions from years ago that have never cleared the bank, never been reconciled. How are they coming close to doing a tax return correctly? I mean, we're talking quite a bit of money. And so people think that they've reconciled properly. And if you've got outstanding transactions that have never cleared, those are just as important, if not more important, than the ones that did clear. So I make a lot of friends because I go out there and I add all kinds of money to their checking account, because these transactions that have never cleared, we have to adjust them to get it to be accurate. So the one last pitfall that I always like to talk about when you're doing the online banking, and when you get more into it and you're really using it regularly, all right, you become just so attached to it that you almost can't go. Let me ask you guys all a question. Don't you brush your teeth every day? That's my new analogy I use all the time. You got to brush your teeth every day, right? If you don't brush your teeth at least twice a day, your dentist is going to be unhappy. And of course, you may not be happy around a lot of people because, you have bad breath and all that kind of stuff. Well, to me, the QuickBooks, you got to do the online banking, in my opinion, at least every day is optimal. Now, if you have a lot of transactions, you can wait a few days, but I'd like to make sure to download every single day. And I teach my clients, and they get so used to it that when something hiccups, it's like their day doesn't work right. But the magic day is the one that's really important to understand. To save that time, the way that QuickBooks works right now, it does not keep track of the cleared date versus the transaction date in QuickBooks. So when you go to reconcile, you got to make sure to reconcile on what I call the magic day, because if you do more downloads into the new month, you might have a transaction that is posted in the date in QuickBooks is in the previous month, but it cleared in the next month. So you have to make sure that that you always do the reconciliation on what I call the magic day, which is the day after the bank issues their statements.
I agree, 100%. And it's a pain point for reconciling if you don't, but you have to understand where I would say don't even add those transactions until you reconciled.
No, it's absolutely. And now, one of the last thing I'm going to say about the online banking, I think it's pretty close to being Karen time. Karen number 1 time. We have Karen 1 and Karen 2. Is it's not something that in 10 minutes you can learn. In fact, all of QuickBooks is that way. It's
not
I've
quick.
been doing. It's not quick. That's right. I always, one client calls me and says, I have a quick QuickBooks question. And I always know I'm in trouble when he calls for that. But it's something you've got to learn. You've got to go through the learning curve. Every new client that I work with, you've got to learn the quirks of your particular bank and how it works with QuickBooks. And you've got to deal with transactions, and every transaction, sometimes they're different. You've got to know what to do with them. But the most important thing is to keep your bank in balance. And if in doubt, you put it to research, or a lot of my clients put on there, add another special account, Chris will like this, Ask Bob. So I put on there Ask Bob, because if they kind of know what it is, but they think they screwed it up, they say, hey, I'm going to put it on Ask Bob, and that gives them starts to build a Bob list, so that when I visit with them the next time, that we can see, that gives us a place to go to clean things up and help them with things. But don't give up on the online banking. If you've tried to use it and give up, get with us. We can show you, because I can tell you there are clients that I have that absolutely live and breathe by it, and they love it once they get through the learning curve. That's the most important thing, is sticking with it and getting through the learning curve, and then it is fantastic. It's one of the best things for keeping QuickBooks accurate. And your tax preparer, when it goes to them, they're going to have a QuickBooks, unlike most of the other ones they get, that will actually be really, really accurate. If you don't keep your online banking and your reconciliations proper, you can't trust any of the other reports in QuickBooks. And it's amazing how many times I go to somebody and they run all these reports and they want all this special stuff in QuickBooks, but their checking account's not reconciled. Their credit cards are not reconciled. And fraud prevention is especially important on the credit cards, because somebody steals the credit card and guess what? You know about it instantly, because you're downloading those right away. And you're saying, hey, wait a minute, what's that charge? And you can actually do tremendous fraud prevention on the credit cards. And I love the online banking, and I think Karen is my match on the online banking stuff. So show us a little bit about that wonderful online banking stuff, Ms. Karen.
Okay, so I got to share my screen, right? So.
Oh, that's a technical difficulty.
Oh, now I can't even move my stuff. Okay, here, watch. Okay, screen share. Yeah, this happened last time too, right? Let's see. I want this, I hope. Technical difficulties do happen, so.
There we go. I see something.
See it?
You're sharing yourself. Thank you.
All right, can you see the bank feed present thing, whatever, the PDF? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. So that was me. Please vote for me. I'm up for 2017 Top 100, and there's the little link. I've got to put a plug in, right? So
good for you.
Here it is. Chris asked me to show how to get the data, import the data, and send the data. So 1, 2, 3, that's it. Getting the data. This is quick. I'm just going to screen through it because there's a lot of slides, and I just want to make sure I covered all. The QuickBooks Online Banking, or the tool that we're talking about, is a tool. It's a bank feed center. And so if you're using Pro, Premier, or Enterprise, the desktop solution, you have the ability to go bidirectionally from the bank to QuickBooks. That's not something that you can do in any of the other editions. It's only in the desktop. And then in the credit cards, it does download, which is why we're happy. Okay, so if your bank does not provide, I live in a very rural area. Karen, I don't know if you came from a very rural area, but I myself have like a little town that has one bank, and they've been around since the early 1900s, but it's one bank, and it was in a house, and now but it doesn't have like Excel or maybe CSV. So maybe they get a PDF of your stuff, and you can create a QBO format file to import using this thing called 2QBO Pro, which it's put out by MoneyThumb, and that will make it a QBO file format for you to be able to use these tools. But Intuit also has a list of these at fi.intuit.com, financial search basic, /index. So just want you to know that those are the way to get the data in. So again, it's not easy. It's not all 1, 2, 3. You should set it up with change your preferences, understand your modes. You need to have the permissions if you have multiple users in your account. And then you want to link the account to your online account to the account that happens to be in QuickBooks. And you want your vendor information, if you're going to send checks to the bank, to have all of the vendor information like you would with QuickBooks, you know, with the bank. If you're using a bank to send checks, and you need to have an account, a phone number, and the complete information of that vendor in order to send a check from QuickBooks. You should always consider your workflow and the rules that you have for your company. And when you download, it goes into a holding tank. And as we pointed out before, we want to match or add, but you got to know what your unique needs are. So if you are saying purchase orders and you have item-based transactions and the construction company information type of things, you want to match transaction. But there are a lot of tools in these interfaces, but most importantly, you want to save that bolt. Why? Because in reconciling, you win. You win with accurate financials, you win with a push-button reconciliation, etc. So I'm going to scream over these because this, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's just fluff, but I wanted to have it on a screen so people could see it. The permissions need to be set up appropriately. And when you use QuickBooks Online Banking or bank feeds, it is an exclusive use in a multi-user mode. So it locks people out from writing checks if you are in multi-user mode. Just keep that in mind. They can't access the tools to pay bills, etc. Linking the account is set up from the chart of accounts directly. When you create a new account, it wants to set up bank feeds. And then you find your bank, and if you don't find your bank, you can use the QBO if you have your access. And then you link your account. But this is where people make a big mistake. They create new accounts, and then they don't have the existing account linked, and their register's all screwed up. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting to the right account. Here is that nightmare of, oh, I've got an account and I've got to download. Where am I going to get that information? You've got to find the export. You've got to look for the dates that you're pulling in, which is on the left, and you want to find the file and then import it. That's a web connect. It's a lot of steps. So it's really nice when you have a direct connect because it's pulling in the data since the last download. So the Web Connect also asks you, do you want to use an existing account or create a new account? So you want to make sure you're getting the right account. And if you create a new one, that's the same idea what happened in the previous screen. So once you've linked the account, you can import the data. But what you're trying to do is always capture your lightning bolts. And so here's what the register mode looks like. And by default, QuickBooks 2014, 15, 16, 17, they don't go there. So you'd have to know this. And it's found in the preferences so that you can actually change the mode. So you can get the mode to be the register mode. I can show you later if I have enough time. I want to be respectful of Karen's time as well. So this is the register mode. The data's in the on the lower part of the screen, and you can see what you have in your register at the top of the screen, and then you can get the data from down in the tank, I call it a holding tank, into the register. So that's the important thing. So, but here it actually says match the data. So you can highlight the information on the top and highlight the information at the bottom and then force a match if it works, but it's looking for, depending on the type of account you're in, if it had check numbers, it wants the check number and the amount to be the same in a bank account. And if it's not a bank account, it's a credit card account, it just wants the amount to be what you find in the system. So that's the register mode. And so you have the ability in the register mode to use the forms to enter data and find transactions. So you can use pay by check, you can pay the bills using the bill payment, you can add deposits. I just pulled in the one side of the transaction, money out, but money in goes the same way. You can match it to receive monies. It's great. And then you can use the form for the credit card. Express mode has a different look, taste, smell, feel. And from here you can see we've got all of the lists here, and you can add the payees and create naming rules and conventions here. And the rules is found at the top of the screen on the right underneath the word navigation. But I'm just going to go through this fast. You can filter the data by date. You can ignore the data that you don't want, and it's extremely important to get rid of data that has already been reconciled, because the purpose of this tool is to help you facilitate in reconciling your bank account. Again, we can't stress that enough. It's really about reconciling. And so if there is data in this download that has already been reconciled, you want to say goodbye to it. It's easy to do that in the express mode. It's difficult to do that in the register mode. So you'd have to delete the download or just change the interface to the express mode in order to have it fast. So again, I can't stress it enough. Get rid of data that has already been reconciled. And you can create renaming rules just by associating, like I have Ability, I love Ability, but Amazon, because Amazon might have a lot of words after it, and each time it comes in, it's different. So when you create a rule, you want to say, whenever you see Amazon, point it to Amazon. And maybe you want to have every time you go to a restaurant, you don't want to have garbage for vendors. You want to create a new vendor called restaurants, or gas for gas, all the gas you might buy. Because every time you go to one of these places, it will be Sunoco, Amoco, BP, you don't need all of them. You just want one in your system. So adding data in express mode, these are all the screens that you would see. Here's an example of a rule. So there's no forms in the express mode. So as I pointed out, I actually specialize in construction and inventory clients. So they really like the register mode, because if they're going to add things, we're going to use that to get the data in. But if I'm just matching, then this will work as well. So rules apply in the express mode. But here's what the scoop is. You really just want to see the transformation of your lightning bolt. When you have data that's entered in your register, there is no cleared status at all. When it matches from a bank feed or gets added, it has the lightning bolt. When you are reconciling it and you haven't finished it, it's an asterisk, and then it becomes a check mark when you do that. But it's a hot lightning bolt. If you touch any transaction in the reconciliation once, you will have lost that lightning bolt. So the whole purpose is to save it for the reconciliation. So here's a screenshot I have of reconciling, and I want to just move that up, and I'm going to do a quick play it so you can see it, because I did this in 2014.
I'm excited to show you how fast and easy it is to reconcile your account directly inside QuickBooks after you use the bank feeds solution. So if I go to reconcile here, I get to show you that the last time was prior to 2/28. It wanted to advance the month. I'm going to select today. I'm not going to go back each month. I'm going to pick today's date, and I'm going to reconcile. Some people might want to do month by month, but I'm going to do it all in one, and I'm going to hit continue. And from here, I'm just going to hit that lovely matched button that we got here, because the account has been enabled for online banking. So I hit matched. I'm going to select it to today because that was my bank download. And look at this. Isn't that seamless? It's easily done. Yes, we have totally reconciled with a push of a button, and that's what this session is about. Thank you.
So that I did back in 2000 and I don't know, 11 or 14 or something like that. So that was one. That was all about the reconciling feature. So here's the workflow, and I'm going to try to quick this. If you want to look at it, just go, you have to go in certain steps, but here's about sending the data. So writing checks, becoming is bank dependent, and it's all about the bank. Not every bank does this, but why wouldn't you want to do it? No, stamp and envelope, that's why people use the bank feeds, no, their own bank bill payment system. But if it connects with QuickBooks, then that's great. So here's the write checks one, and this is just the same thing that I did before, only it's to write a check.
Write a check from within QuickBooks. How exciting is that? And have the bank deliver it without us going to the bank's website. It requires a direct connection, and I can do this from within the bank feed center. This is not available in the online edition, and we can't use the register mode to do this in this interface. So if I should,
Karen,
Yeah?
are the videos running on another screen? Because people are chiming in, they can't see it.
They can't see it? No, it's there. So
and I hit
you
the
can't see it, I'll stop it.
It will
Yeah, but all we're seeing is the PDF that you have on screen.
Yeah. Well, so like if it's not playing and you can't see it, then here it is. Anyway, so I'll say here, down here is a create new. It just creates the check. So again, I'll just go this way, control. Can you see this? Can you see my QuickBooks?
Yeah, we can see the PDFs right now. There's a PDF that says write checks with a lightning bolt.
You can't see QuickBooks.
No. Do you have it on another screen? Or?
Oh, no, you know what it is? It's the it's when you're doing the screen share from Zoom, and that's the thing. You have to select what you're going to want to see. And you know, I'd have to go back to getting Zoom. Let me see Zoom. Okay. I don't know that I want to be respectful of Karen's time. So
Still okay.
yeah, leave it at that. You can write a check here, and because I have to show a lot of whatever I'm missing the technology part. Sorry. So
Karen, don't worry about me. I talk fast, so.
Well, okay. Well, then let me see. If you want to see that more, I can see video settings. No, this Zoom is new to me. Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
So if I could figure it out, I would know more. You write a check in QuickBooks, and at the top, it shows the write checks. Let me show you here so you can see this down further, page down. I was going to say there's a different PIN sometimes for writing the check, and then you need the complete vendor information. Oh, I didn't capture that at the top. The lightning bolt shows there in the top, and it's grayed out when you send the checks through QuickBooks bill payment. And if your bank doesn't have it, QuickBooks has their own bill payment system, which is one of the other financial institutions you can choose. Those are best practice conclusions, pointers, and thank you. But if I could figure out how to show you that video, then I'd be glad to. If I could even just show you QuickBooks, I'd be happy.
You know, what I would suggest is closing the Adobe Reader or the PDFs and then reinitializing your screen share with it on the screen.
Oh yeah, that does it. Okay. So it says, oh yeah, show screen. So it's up to, here's QuickBooks. I can show you that one. So here, can you see QuickBooks?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
QuickBooks now.
So if I would write check here, if I pick the right bank account that has been enabled, this is a, let me get there. If I go here, let me see, TD Bank is my enabled bank. So if I go to my company checking account, which is my main checking account, hit OK. No, I got to find my chart of accounts list. Chart of accounts. The one that's enabled. This is the direct connect. So if I wanted to write a check from here, and come on, write a check. Write a check. This button appears, pay online. And so then it becomes an online bank check. And this also allows me to use, if I pay bills, I can also use the online bank check down here. And so if I was to say pay Verizon Wireless using an online bank check, here's this date is back from when it was, this old thing. And now it says pay more bills, I'm done. What I have to do is go into that bank feed center and go to TD and then send that transaction. I can also do it from creating the bank check here. I can pay bills or do an online check. Again, it opens up this, it says pay online. And then when you just transmit it, it goes. And several banks have a bi-directional. It will send you back a check number. KeyBank is like that. TD Bank sends it. It's free with TD. I'm not promoting them. I'm just saying it's free. But KeyBank, other banks charge. So that's the bill payment feature. And so that basically is what we were asked to present. And it's awesome.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass it over to Karen.
Yeah, and I apologize. I lost my computer for some reason a little while ago, so I missed in between. But a couple of things I wanted to address because there were some questions early on, and I think this is kind of an ongoing discussion as it relates to even QuickBooks in general. None of these steps are designed to replace an accountant or a bookkeeper or a financial professional. They're methods to simplify certain processes, but all of you watching still need to have financial professionals that help you with, regular audits of your file and of course your taxes during, that time of year. But these are just some steps that really help you streamline a lot of processes that otherwise would take you a great deal of time. So like Bob was talking about how you can allocate, certain imported expenses to certain accounts. Again, those are just things that later on, when you get to that point where you're handing the file off, it's a much simpler process to reconcile. But the bottom line is we all need people to help us out and make sure that we're doing things correctly. Hence, that's why we have experts like Bob and Karen with us today. So we really appreciate you taking the time to share. Apologize that that process is a little confusing with Zoom. And we have a cat joining us too. We had Joanne's dog Cosmo once before, and I'm going to bring my dog next month, I think, just to have her here. My wife hasn't agreed to it yet, but I think I'm going to. But anyways, with that, I would like to turn the floor over to Karen Magno, who's here from Transaction Pro, and she's going to talk to us now about other types of transactions and how they can be imported via their products. So we'll turn the floor over to you, Karen.
Okay, great.
Can we see the screen sharing kicked off, and it looks like a slide.
Okay, great. Okay. This first screen is just a screenshot of our product, Transaction Pro Importer 6, that works with QuickBooks Desktop, and I have a really brief agenda for today. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Transaction Pro suite of tools. I'm going to talk about, at a high level, some typical uses of the Transaction Pro Importer, and then I'm going to give a quick demo of the Transaction Pro Importer. Okay, so basically,
with a cat and some guys walking by. Okay.
Okay. So we're a third-party app developer for QuickBooks. We've been working with QuickBooks since 2002. We're currently located in Sarasota, Florida. Just for the desktop, which is products, we have over 38,000 companies around the world that use our tools. So it's a pretty popular tool. And I apologize, I do not know why the bottom of my screen's not showing. Okay. So anyways, as far as our offerings for QuickBooks Desktop, which includes Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, hosted editions, QBox, what happens with QBox is you install it on your local machine where you have the QuickBooks software, and then you open up the QuickBooks company file, and then you can do your imports into any QuickBooks company file. It works well with QBox. And then we also do offer an importer and a deleter for QuickBooks Online, but today our focus is on QuickBooks Desktop. The typical uses of our product is it can be used by either, I know most people typically think of an import tool as being used by an accountant, but we have many, many small businesses that use our tool It's built as a wizard, so therefore it's not intimidating, to the end user. We have 32 lists and transactions that the tool supports. It's a very simple but yet very powerful tool. And some of the most common import types are importing from e-commerce, importing from expense reporting apps, importing journal entries from point-of-sale systems. So basically think of anywhere where you're doing manual data entry and work your way backwards and see if you can get a file from the other party, whether it be an Excel, CSV, or text file, and then you just create a mapping one time and import it into QuickBooks, and you're saving all the manual data entry. Okay, so this next screen basically indicates all the different types of files that you can import into QuickBooks Desktop. We support all the different versions of Excel, all the way back to 2003, all the way up to the most current Office 365 and 2016. We support comma-separated files. We also support text files, all different types of delimiters. We also can communicate directly with an Access database or can connect directly to a SQL database. So it's pretty powerful. It works with almost anything. Oops. And I'm having too fast. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to give a live demo of the Transaction Pro importer. And what I wanted to do first is I wanted to show you, this is a very simple import file, but let's say your client or you had had some invoices that you need to import into QuickBooks, and this is just a very simple file. It has 3 invoices in it, and the first invoice has 3 lines, and you can see the invoice.
I think we have the same issue again. You may have to close your slides first.
Oh, okay.
Because all we're seeing right now is questions.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'd rather have you. Let's see. More. New share. Okay. I see what's happening is I'm sharing an individual application instead of my entire screen. So that's what was going on. Okay, so this is an Excel file with 3 invoices in it, and you can see that the first invoice has 3 lines on it with multiple items. And then we have 2 more invoices with multiple lines. So it does support, multiple lined imports. So this is what we're going to be actually importing. So so what I'm going to do is I am now going to show the Transaction Pro importer. Hold on a sec. Okay. All right. And so basically, I've already browsed for the file. And can you see the Transaction Pro importer now, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to browse for the file, and we do support multiple worksheets, so you can select which sheet that you want to import. And then in the drop-down here, you select the import type. So you can see, we support bank statements. Just so we know, we support the payee aliases. So if you have like a financial institution, maybe such as a credit union, that doesn't have a bank feed, or you can't get a QBO file out of, you can also use our Transaction Pro importer. We support expense transactions, deposits, invoices, journal entries, time tracking. Time tracking is a big one. A lot of companies use an outside time tracking system that does not communicate with QuickBooks. Vendor credits, and then we support all these different lists from accounts, item assemblies. Price level list is a very common one because of the fact that Intuit does not natively provide support for fixed prices when importing your price levels. So you can see you buy one tool and you can import all these different types of data. And it's all once you do one import, it's all the same process. It's just a different file and a different mapping. So in this case, I'm going to import this file as invoices. And then we have a multitude of options. So we have 3 tabs of options. You have the ability, we have cross-referencing capability if your import file contains account numbers instead of names. If you want to let QuickBooks auto-assign transaction IDs, you can do that. You can pre-validate all your data by saying, I don't want to add new customers, I don't want to add new items. And what that does is that helps, indicate if there's a mismatch between your other database and QuickBooks. We generate a transaction log after import. And there's just so many different options that are available. If you go to our blog, blog.transactionpro.com, or go to our website, transactionpro.com, and click on blog, you'll see a whole section on options. We also have an advanced tab here. We do support custom fields. You can do a cross-reference. If you're coming from another accounting system, you can do a cross-reference for the account name, for the description field instead of the account name field if you have a mismatch in your chart of accounts. We support bills and checks if they're all going across in one row. We have an item cross-reference. We have a lot of journal entries, a lot of special journal entry options. And again, if you have the product, just press F1. It will give you all the different options and how they work. And you're hard-pressed to find, anything. There's so many options within our product that if you don't see it, just ask. And then the last tab is a very powerful tab. It's called our e-commerce features. And what that does is it allows you to import from shopping carts, such as maybe Amazon or PayPal, anyone that has shipping and discounts and sales tax. Typically, they're in separate columns in the file that you download from your website provider. So once you turn these on, it gives you additional options so you can map those fields. So it's a very flexible yet powerful tool. So I'm just going to save the options I have. I'm just doing a very basic import. So I'm going to select the next button at the bottom. Okay. And basically what I like about this is you have total control. So this is the data from the actual import file. So I like it. What happens if, there are two files that are named very similarly and you grab the incorrect file? If these dates were 2014, I'd be like, oops, I know I grabbed the wrong file. So it's a very safe way of importing. So then I'm going to select the next button. And then what happens is you create a mapping here. And in this drop down here, you'll see the header row from your Excel file. So what's in this drop down is the first row with the descriptive headings from your Excel file. So it's very easy. In the import file columns, you just select the particular column from your Excel file that you want to match each of the QuickBooks fields. And the minimum fields that are required to be mapped are indicated in red. So you want to make sure that everything that's in red is mapped. And so what happens is you can see this is an invoice. There's so many different fields that are on here that are supported. Let's see, classes are supported, sales tax. I didn't turn on custom fields, but they're supported. In this QuickBooks company file, it's a multi-currency one, so you can also import currency. And in this is an enterprise file, so I also have advanced inventory turned on. And so you can import, serial, lot number, and site and bin. And just so you know, we detect, what version of QuickBooks you have, we detect the country version, and when we first start the importer, and based on that, you'll see different fields that are populated here. So the other thing that I like to point out to users is you also have the ability to provide a static value or a formula. So in this case, I want all these invoices to be printed. So I just typed in a letter Y. And then another common use is we have a concatenate feature, similar in Excel, where you can combine multiple fields. And I saw Fran Reed in the chat window, and I know she does a lot of imports. And one of the things is she does imports from expense reporting apps. And one of the things that users like to do is this memo field is like 4,000 characters long. So you have the ability to map multiple columns from your import file to this memo field. And so you can just do the formula right in here. So it's very powerful. So, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the next button. And what happens here is when I hit next, this is when Transaction Pro validates all the data. We validate to make sure all the required fields are there. We take a look at the lengths. We take a look at the data type. So if you map the date to a number field, you're not even going to get beyond the step. You'll see an error message, and anything that is highlighted in yellow. That's incorrect. It's a very safe method. So if you make a mistake in the mapping, you're going to get an error message. And so again, I also like this tool because of the fact that you have control over how your data is going into QuickBooks. So you can see all the fields listed across the top. and you can see the data from your import file. So, you know, you can eyeball this and be like, okay, this looks okay. And you see how the default value, the letter Y, is now on every single row. And so I'm just going to scroll over. And that, like I said, I did a very simple mapping. QuickBooks will fill in the addresses and the description, etc., if these are existing items. So I just typically scroll over and take a look to make sure that everything looks okay. And once you set up the map and the options, it's there for the next import. So then, and just so you know, you can also edit in any of these fields. If all of a sudden you realize that you made a mistake here and you want this to be a different value, you can edit it right in this grid or the second grid. So then I'm going to select the next button. And then Transaction Pro will create, first of all, it will create customers if you wanted to on the fly if they don't already exist. And then if the items don't exist, you can tell Transaction Pro, okay, if this item doesn't exist, this is how I want it to be created. So in this case, I said I want any new item to be created, you know, as an inventory part, and these are all the accounts that I want to be used on that. So if the item doesn't exist, then Transaction Pro will create the new item for you. So then I'm going to select the Finish button, and then it's going to begin the invoice transfer to QuickBooks. And this is where we're actually importing the file. This is where all the magic happens. Okay, and then what happens is you get a full log here of everything that imported. If for some reason there was some issue with any of the data, the status column would have a reason as to why that particular transaction or line didn't import. And so you can save this so that if you have your clients doing your imports or if you have staff member doing the imports, I would suggest that they save these files, and then that way if you get to the end of the month and something went wrong, you can use it as a training tool, to work with your clients or with your internal staff, because this shows exactly how the data was imported. So then that way, if you need to adjust the maps, you can do that very easily, or maybe you might need to add more data to your import file. And so that's basically it. I just want to show. Let's see if I can drag over. Oops. Okay. I'm just going to share a different screen for a second. Let's see. Okay. So any questions, what you want to do is you want to go to transactionpro.com. Okay. And basically, we have free trials available of all of our products. You can come to our products page. And if you go to the actual product itself, you can see that there's a trial demo here for all of our products. As far as our blog, I just want to oops. We're in the process of doing some work on our website. So basically what you would do is you can come over here. This is the blog. And then and you can see, learn what options do. And you can see we've detailed out how all the different options work. And then if you're importing transactions or lists, you can come over here. And these are actually printable. Come on. And so what you can do is you can come and actually look at all the articles. And in this case, if you're using the tool for the first time, this is a step-by-step, of how you go through the actual import. And it shows you all the data fields that are supported with the required, if it's a required field, what data type it is. And then at the bottom, we show, if you're doing an invoice import, these are some of the options that you might want to consider using. Okay. So this is a good way to get started, and all this information on this blog is printable.
Okay. You did actually have a few questions that came in over the chat. I don't know if you want to take a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of them was, are sales tax groups supported multiple taxes and agencies? So I'm assuming they mean, can you choose between when you do the import into QuickBooks, whether it's federal tax, state tax, or how it's taxed?
Yeah. What happens is if you don't provide any sales tax codes or sales tax items in your import file, just like QuickBooks, it'll automatically fill in, what's existing, on that customer and item. Okay. But you can also explicitly state it in your import file. You can say, okay, I want this is a sales tax group that I want to be used for this invoice, and this is a sales tax code. So you can either do an item or a group.
Okay. The next question just came in. Can the online version be used by an accountant for multiple client accounts, or would they need to purchase separate licenses for each client?
You can use your same QBOA login for every single QuickBooks Online company, but you do need a separate subscription for each QuickBooks Online company. We do have month-to-month plans, so you can sign up and cancel before the end of the month. Or if you have a large volume of recurring QuickBooks Online company files that you're doing imports into, contact me at sales@transactionpro.com and we can discuss that further.
Okay. A couple others. If you use the exporter prior to importing, are descriptions truncated?
Nope, not like QuickBooks. You'll get all, the memo field won't be truncated and the description field won't be truncated.
Okay, perfect.
You get all the data.
Okay, and then the last one is actually one more flag. The account assignment field in vendors was added in 2010. Doesn't show on the mass entry adjustment screen. Does Transaction Pro include this field?
Yes, it does. Includes the account number on the vendor list import.
Okay, and then that person asked earlier about a separate account for each QBO account they're connecting to. Same question for desktop. Do they need multiple licenses, one for each desktop client?
The desktop product is licensed per computer, and so you can use it with an unlimited number of QuickBooks company files that you can access from that computer.
Okay. Oh gosh, there's a lot of questions here I missed. Will the import-export a memorized transaction list?
Nope. Intuit does not give developers access to memorized transactions nor payroll, so start over.
Okay. I think that the only other question I think we missed was, and actually someone else already took care of that one, so I'm gonna skip that one. So thank you very much, Karen. I actually learned a lot. That's a phenomenal product. I think it does give someone that has data that's in a format that doesn't come from a system that automatically imports. It gives them a great option to import all of that data simultaneously rather than having to do it individually. So thank you very much for the demonstration. And also thank you, we're running a little bit over, but I want to thank Bob again also and Karen Siewert. I don't know if they're still there. Karen, I apologize for making the comment about your cat in the background. I actually am jealous. I think that's pretty cool. So
dump it up her screen.
Yeah, there they are. They're back. So thank you to everyone's someone's saying great presentation. So thank you very much to everyone again for today, Karen and Bob. We really appreciate your participation.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah, and a couple of housekeeping items before we escape today. We do have desktop time next month, every month, third Wednesday of the month. Next month, we have Don Brolin and T-Sheets that'll be presenting importing payroll items. The month after, we're going to have Mariette and Joanne also back, appearing with HubDocs, so they'll be our June lineup. But just wanted to let everybody know that our esteemed guests today, their information will be available on our website tomorrow. If you go to the featured guests, their information is there in a hyperlink format. So we really force these guys into a small window of time to share all their knowledge. They're experts, of course. So we do encourage you, if you have more questions after today, to go ahead and visit the Desktop Time website. You can find the links to get their information and their websites directly. You can also find the recorded version of today and any previous Desktop Time that we've had so far. So that information is also available on the website. And one more housekeeping item, starting next month's webinar, when you register, it'll actually register you for upcoming webinars as well. So you don't have to do that each and every month. So we're going to create some automation for that going forward. So anyways, thank you very much again for your time today. Thank you very much again to Bob and Karen for your excellent presentations today. We appreciate your time. And encourage everybody to find out more information about Transaction Pro or working with Karen or Bob. Again, you can find that information on the website. So thank you very much again to everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go out and enjoy your post-tax season time. Go golfing. Go do whatever you like to do. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here next month. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.